But Josh, as a recruiter and talking to candidates and, knowing what you know about project logistics, what do you think is this industry? Do we need to change our image? Do we need to be more media savvy? Or as Stefan put it, what can we do to appear as an interesting industry to young people?
And I'm in quite a unique position to be able to comment on that, because I recruit as a business in logistics, but we hire almost exclusively from universities and graduates. So I'm 30 years old and I am the oldest person in the business. So we have no issue in attracting young talent, but the job that we do, my employees will tell you it's not an exciting job. It's certainly not a flash job. And so really for us, it's about exposure for one. So getting into universities, graduate schemes are a great idea. They generate good talent, but actually we're a little bit more direct than that. So we contact the talent engagement teams in universities. We'll go into the universities ourselves, do talks to the graduates, not only just individual sessions, but also speaking to societies, sponsoring sports teams. There's lots of ways that you can indirectly get your exposure to the young talent. And then it's about what that exposure is. And it's nice that you mentioned image, because one of the comments on our poll that I do share the opinion of is that the industry itself, it's not particularly glamorous. And we live in a world that really is a social media driven world. Young professionals today care far more about what their friends think about their job and how they look than the actual purpose of the job itself. So it's about one, exposure, but also sharing experiences that you've had in the job that make the job exciting to come and work in. Because, you guys have all built careers in the industry. There must be something that you've really enjoyed in your work that makes it enjoyable for other people. So it's about getting that exposure, delivering that exposure to people in the right way, and perhaps, as you said, Stefan, making the industry a little bit more hip, if you can.
But it's, very, very interesting, and you're absolutely right. A lot of it is about social media. It all happens online. So how can an industry that's still very much about the people in the industry? We're very much about the people we know. We're very small niche industries, project logistics. So what in your mind, how can we have the best of both worlds, where it's about the people, but it's also media savvy?
And it's a difficult question, and I don't have the exact answer for you. If you look at some of the freight forwarding businesses that are starting to attract more talent, Stefan did mention this as well, is that they are beginning to digitize more. You only have to look at the likes of, so we do some recruitment for businesses like Forto, like Zen Cargo, and they can attract talent outside of the industry, which is something, that doesn't happen very often in logistics. So for me, contemporizing the work in some way, whether that's digitizing, whether it's being more flexible with your work, those are two solutions that I could think of, but it's not an easy answer. There's not an easy answer to that question.
Also thinking outside of the box. So rather than looking at new talent, old talent, what about different ways of attracting talent that may already have an existing logistics or supply chain base? So how about ship to shore? Crew or ship management people who have been on working for the heavy lift carriers, perhaps, wanting to come ashore to train them to move into project logistics. Veterans who, there's a lot of good military logisticians, perhaps offering opportunities to kind of transition that knowledge from the defense to the civilian industry. Josh, do you feel that's a market that's untapped? From a point of view of recruitment?
Potentially. I think the biggest challenge at the executive level, so the experienced talent at the moment, is being exacerbated by the COVID situation. What once was a very exciting job where you could, no 2 days would be the same, you'd get to do loads of international travel, has been replaced by, is this job going to be stable? Is this project going to be financially sound? Am I going to be safe traveling to, any part of the world with COVID waves fluctuating across the globe as they do, I think it's quite a challenging period to draw executive talent back into the market. And so absolutely thinking out the box is
what are the reservations you are hearing from candidates when you initially approach them?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, if you asked the candidate what they were looking for, they'd be looking for an exciting new challenge as a sort of cliche answer, but a project logistics position is an exciting new challenge for the right professional. Nowadays, the most common answer is they're looking for stability. And if the projects themselves are not stable, it's very difficult to find talent to work on those projects. So yeah, that's probably the biggest reservation that we're seeing today is the stability of the roles. And the safety is ancillary to that. So, nowadays I'm sure we all sign off emails saying, stay safe, wish you the best of health. Now, we say that in goodwill, but people are genuinely thinking about their health a lot more than they were 3 years ago. And so if you're having to move around the world to do work, not knowing what the local health situation is going to be like is obviously going to present a challenge.
What I would like to do is to see what's the opinion in the audience. What do you all think, especially the younger generation in the audience? What's your perception? Where do you think we need to be as an industry to attract more talent?
Hello. I have the pleasure of working for Josh on the stage, and I guess the motivation for me when I actually went and joined JB Andrews was the growth prospects at the company. And when I speak to young people who are looking to get into the working world, and when I speak to people who work in the industry, a motivation that they have in maybe looking elsewhere is that the growth prospects at their current business aren't where they want them to be, or they're not progressing in the company as fast as they would like. So I guess a question that I would have for Tina, Stefan, what are the growth prospects for a young person coming into the likes of a Kerry or a Doigro?
I think part of the question we have maybe already touched upon by saying that we are eventually in a very, very international environment. The growth perspective, starting in Europe or in Asia, could be working in a different region, in a different country, taking responsibility of maybe smaller branches, of smaller teams, or even of a remote project team. I think these are sort of the immediate growth perspectives I think that we can give eventually. But and then I will hand over to you, Tina. But the question is, do young people still want that today? Because of what we said earlier, where they want stability, they want the family around, they want the environment of friends and school and university around. So I think that's a question to ask. But from an international project freight forwarder perspective, it's seeing the world, working abroad, working with different cultures, and taking over a responsibility of a project team or a branch or whatever. Tina.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Stefan. I mean, Doigro is a traditional project freight forwarder. Kerry Project Logistics is a project logistics company. So there's very little risk that a youngster would be asked to ship containers day in, day out. It's seeing a much bigger picture. It's seeing a project from the strategic point of the bidding, the contract negotiation, all the way through to planning, delivery, the transport engineering, the ups and downs, but also to seeing something finish, whether it's a refinery, an oil train, a wind park. And, all this takes place in countries that quite often people struggle to find on the map. And I think, what we can offer as an industry is the ability to grow, to learn about multitasking, about cradle to grave project management, opportunities which you often don't have in general forwarding, because there is a risk of being pigeonholed into sea freight or air freight. It all has its place, and of course e-commerce is the next big thing, but it's much more exciting to move a I don't know, 500-ton reactor from Indonesia all the way up into northern Pakistan than it is to move 5,000 Samsung telephones. That's not meant disrespectfully, but there is a lot more involvement, a lot more detail. The hours may be unsociable, but I think if we can find a way of communicating that through social media in a language that a younger generation now communicates in, I think that would, benefit us as an industry, but it also opens up new perspective to young people today.
Yeah, and Stefan, to your point, or to answer your question actually more, there are still young professionals out there that do want to live and work internationally and travel. You only have to look at myself and Stuart, who asked the question. We've been here 6 months. We took the risk, quote unquote, to make the move internationally, but we did it in what is a fairly stable job. And so hopefully, once the COVID pandemic continues to be controlled and hopefully goes away eventually, the stability should return in some aspects, and those people are there. If you look for them, they do exist. You just have to look a little bit harder and hope that the jobs that you're offering become more stable.